Hello everybody, it's Saturday, March 14th. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. BuzzFeed article wanted to share with everybody. Olivia Webb is the BuzzFeed contributor here, so credit to her for this story, and this was from yesterday, the 13th. Wanted to share this with you. Like I said, it's something I found really interesting and pretty educational as I was skimming through it a little bit earlier. Opinion: moving our pharmaceutical factories overseas was a huge mistake. The coronavirus outbreak is a good time to ask why our leaders sat by as so much of the US pharmaceutical industry was shipped abroad. And this will tie into the other video that I'm doing today. I already shot it. It's opportunity, seeing this as an opportunity, asking the questions, learning from this, and seeing if we can pressure our companies and our government in a way to bring back the kind of made in the USA, kind of USA reliance, nationalistic type of thing, where we're bringing everything back and helping our citizens first and foremost, because that's what it's about, looking out for fellow Americans. I'm always about that first and foremost. So let's read a little bit of this article, and it's going to be educational. I didn't know a lot of this. Maybe some of you did and you're more in the loop, but here we go. China's Hubei province is the epicenter of the global coronavirus outbreak. It's also home to at least 12 drug plants supplying the US with everything from painkillers to antibiotics. Did you know that? I didn't even know. And beyond Hubei, an estimated 80% of pharmaceutical ingredients are sourced from China and India, which in turn sources nearly 80% of its drug ingredients from China. Okay. I had to think about that for a second. I get it. So they're saying 80% of the pharmaceutical ingredients come from India and China, but India in turn sources 80% of its ingredients from China as well. Interesting. It says here, our ability to make and distribute medicine here in the US is falling apart, and it's a direct result of the consolidation of the supply chains and factories that make it. The cardizem shortage of 2018 began when Hurricane Maria knocked out power to a handful of factories in Puerto Rico that produce saline bags used around the world for administering intravenous medications. Those few days of lost production in Puerto Rico caused cardizem supplies to be backlogged for months. Pharmaceutical producers put most of their eggs in one basket, and the hurricane upset that basket. Interesting. I talk about that a lot in my other video. Diversification, you don't want to be reliant upon one country, or even two. The coronavirus could disturb a much bigger market, the majority of pharmaceutical drugs globally. Since at least 2005, hospital administrators and patients have experienced the fragility of the drug supply chain. Policymakers have failed to address the root cause. Why did we consolidate and thin out supply chains so aggressively? The answer is found in the behavior of power buyers. So check this out. This is the part that's interesting to me. Corporations in the drug supply chain that buy a lot of product and subsequently have the power to set prices. Those are the power buyers. Power buyers like CVS or the group purchasing organizations, GPOs, which hospitals use to buy everything from surgical gowns to generic drugs, have consolidated the drug supply chain, squeezing manufacturers to get rid of all their redundant sources of supply, or, even riskier, ship off their production to China. Indeed, it's consolidation all the way down. Many of these GPOs outsource even further, purchasing their generic drugs through separate power buyer entities. For example, Cardinal Health, the 5th largest GPO in the country, runs a joint venture called Red Oak Sourcing with CVS Health, the largest pharmacy chain, to handle purchasing for Cardinal, CVS, Target, Omnicare, which sources for approximately 50% of all nursing homes, and Optum Rx, the drug division of United Health Group. Other power buyers cover purchasing for Walmart, Walgreens, and Express Scripts. The market is so consolidated that just 4 of these power buyers control over 90% of the generic drug purchasing for the entire country. The consolidation might not seem like a bad thing. After all, generic drugs are cheap. A course of generic antibiotics may cost no more than $5 for the consumer, but power buyers have driven prices below a sustainable level for the producer. All right, we'll skip a little bit ahead in the article. It says here, as lawmakers and experts consider solutions to fix the fragile medical supply chain, many are focusing on having the FDA gain visibility into our supply chain and relocating supply chains away from China. These approaches are a good start, but they also fail to address the root of the problem. Rather than focusing solely on the country of origin of the supply chains, lawmakers and regulators should be focused on the market power issues that cause the problem. Regulatory solutions like breaking apart the power buyers of drugs and legislative solutions like banning contracts that guarantee massive purchasers the lowest possible price would allow the supply chain to re-diversify, and diverse supply chains are better able to respond to a catastrophe. We're far beyond just manageable shortages. The coronavirus is forcing lawmakers to confront the weakness of U.S. supply chains. The solutions go beyond the short-term crisis and address the concentrated corporate power that's at fault. Love this piece. I would say give it a look. If you want, read the thing in full. I tried to give you all the meat that I could. I didn't really cut out anything that would have led you to think a certain way or another. I just kind of wanted to skip it so the video doesn't get that long. But I'll archive the source. But like I said, go ahead and give this article a read. I think this is something that's really important. And again, it's like my other video is going to talk about. It's opportunity. Things are being exposed. A lot of things are being exposed here with the supply chain. And it's not just medications. Now, obviously, that's going to be a huge one, but it's food supply, clothing supply, your tech supply, anything you can think of that comes from China, which a majority of our stuff does. This whole incidence of this virus spreading, it really gives us an opportunity to sit back and think about how China plays a role in our lives and what kind of role do we want them to play in our lives going forward. What I'm thinking about right now, as we sit here on the morning of March 14th, is China's claiming that they've got their thing under control. It seems like their cases and their deaths are down. Again, the numbers, we can debate those if we want. Numbers up to this point and active cases and number of new cases, definitely we can have that debate if we want to do that. But the power position that China's in right now. My other story talks about how China's going on the offensive with their media and trying to place the blame on the U.S. for beginning the outbreak to begin with. What we have here with this situation and some other follow-up pieces I read was that China, the power position they're in, the term I referred to just a little bit earlier, is they now have the ability to say, hey, we don't have what you want. They're in the position of power right now. We had these trade wars go on in the past with Trump and everything in 2019 where the U.S. had the power to impose these tariffs because China realizes it's kind of a symbiotic relationship to keep growing. But again, they have the opportunity here to kind of say, hey, you got us in 2019 with these tariffs. Now it's our turn to kind of twist your guys' arm a little bit. Now, from their perspective, I can respect that. They've got to do what's best for their people, their country, their industry, and everything like that. From that perspective, you can't hate on them for trying to squeeze more money out of the U.S. or trying to use this to their advantage. Certainly can't blame them for that. But who we can blame, you know who? We can blame decades and decades of companies getting away with this, government getting away with this, us being asleep at the wheel, allowing this to happen. And every time we go to a store, supermarket, wherever we go, whenever we go out and buy our Apple phone, all complicit. Like I talk about in my other video, we've all contributed to this situation where China has this power position now. Them using it, them playing that card, it's all on us, myself included. And I can look in the mirror and admit to that. I wish it weren't like that. I wish I could do more. Unfortunately, all I can do is show you guys these articles, try to send out some tweets, rattle some cages, but companies and government are the ones that have the power to change this. And I think it's up to us to call upon our leadership and our corporations here to do more. That means we'd end up having to pay more for our drugs, possibly more for our phones, more for our clothing. But again, it's how much do you want to divest and detach from the teat of China, right? How much do you want to have a situation like this come up in the future? Because we know there's going to be further outbreaks. There's always some kind of disease thing coming up every few years that needs to be stomped or squashed out that causes supply chain disruptions. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to stick with the status quo? Are we going to allow our leadership and companies and everything like that to just keep doing the same old thing just to increase their bottom lines? Or are we going to demand more? It's up to us as individuals, really. And I don't doubt that all of you get that. But again, I can't hate on them. They put themselves in a power position just like we try to do when it comes to trade, right? All we can do is look to ourselves to try to create change. And from what I've heard, there's some shortage of drugs already. I heard a little bit of it on the news. I didn't catch the name. It went to commercial or whatever before, and I had to head out before I caught the name of it, but it could get worse. I heard that there was a cargo ship coming here that had medical supplies on it, like masks and gowns and stuff like that, gloves possibly, that China said, no, we're turning this thing around because they needed those supplies for their own country. But again, that's their right. They manufactured the stuff. Even though we paid for it, they have the right to say, nah, we're cool. Take your money back. We're going to keep our goods for our people. And I can respect that. And I wish our country was more that way. I wish that we could do more as individuals to hold our corporations and government accountable to us. So those are my thoughts on it. Again, kind of scary. Seeing it as an opportunity. Hopefully we can get something done here where we can kind of get back some control of the supply chain and just say, hey, it's okay to pay a little bit more money, get rid of these power buyers. We're all right with paying a little bit more money if we can bring more of this manufacturing back home. So hopefully we can get something done in that regard. I'll be keeping an eye on this story. Love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure you guys got some good ones on this one, but take it easy, everybody. Take care and enjoy your weekend.